Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Mikestand, where we basically talk a bit about niche news. Just give me a quick sec. Gotta do something real quick. I'll be right back. All right, then. I think we got at least one other person in here right now. Um, we're just waiting on see if we can get some more people in. As always, I always appreciate the likes and shares. You guys help me out with that in terms of seeing if we can get some more people in here. Um, so while we're waiting, I know it seems like there's one other person who might be on. How are you doing tonight? Did you have a good day today? Um, Anything exciting happen? Oh. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Gathered together are the hmm. Anyways, got everything queued up. Just waiting to see if we can get some more people in here before I get started. Um, and hopefully you're doing well. Um, let's see. There's a second person on StreamYard there. Ah, and I guess if you feel like lurking, that's fine. Um, Hoping to see. I said we're just waiting on see if we can get some more people in here. Um, Before I get started with the stories. Um, hey, Solid. Mike. Hey, Solid. How you doing, man? Hope all is well with you. Um, yeah, just waiting on some people to show up and get in here. We're before we get started on the stories. Before I start getting into the stories a bit here. Um, so how'd your day go? Anything exciting happen? I'll be right back here. Hmm. Just left work. Oh, okay. So you're on your way home too, huh? Well, let's see. We're already at 5 minute mark. Wait until about the 10-minute mark or just before I get going on the stories. Apparently, my avatar has been netting me an increased number of liked comments I've left on videos. Yeah. Well, yeah. Your avatar is quite an attractive young lady there. I would not be surprised, but I would be careful because there are people who might interpret that as you being a. Well, I don't know. I haven't asked this of you before. I went on the assumption that you're a guy. Um, I would hope that assumption is correct, but if not, please correct me. Let's see. But it's understandable because that avatar might make people think that you're a girl. So, but I would, I'd always assumed you were guy. If I'm wrong, please correct me. Um, please clarify. Hmm. Let's see now. Oh, coming up on the 7 minute mark here. Hopefully, some people will show up pretty quick here. Hmm. Hopefully, they didn't like surprise you too much with that statement. Uh, hmm. Yes, you must be focusing on driving. That's why you're not responding. Oh, we got a third person came in. Hello, third person. My internet dropped out for a minute. Oh, okay. All I was saying, solid, is that some people might. I think I was naturally assuming you were a guy, and I was asking you if I was wrong with that. So please correct me on that. But because your avatar might make some people think that you're a girl, so that's where I was going with all that. Hey, Mike. Hey, Reggie. Hey, TC. What's up, man? Yeah, I'm driving too. Mm-hmm. How about I am an ASZ myself. Redfield, laugh out loud. I don't need all the. I don't need the like a whatever the ASZ or cisgender or whatever kind of garbage. That is just you know you know. And anyways, let's see. Coming up on 9 minutes now, so well, according to this, we got four people watching, so I guess it would be a good time to um just give somewhat of a preview of got five people in here now. Yay, five people. And as always, guys, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, that would really help out quite a bit. So that would really be quite appreciative if you can get some people to like and share. See if we can get some more people in here. Let's see. Let's caught up on. Okay. Me too. Everyone says to me, "You're an ASD, whatever that means." I I used to deter SJWs from. Well, I'm not being an SJW. I just want to be accurate there. That's all. How about just keep chat clean, Mike? Well, yeah, that's what I try to do. Hey, Woody. Hello, hello. Me and me. Cava bien. I guess that's French. I guess Batgoat is giving us a little bit of French. Hey, Batgoat. Batgoat. Da 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 da. Batgoat. Da 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 da. Batgoat. Da 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 da. Batgoat. Da 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 da. Batgoat. 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 Da 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 da. What would Woody do? Back in 62, driving fancy cars, drinking in the bars, playing all the games, picking up the dames. What would Woody do? What would Woody do? Action! Toys! Channel! Action! Toys! Channel! Hey, Toys, Woody, solid. Ah, anyways, all right. Well, we're past the 11-minute mark here. Okay, I think I got that one already. So, no, this is basically what's on tap tonight. A lot of it's more, a lot of it's mostly going to be focusing on like Batman, particularly Batman Beyond. We got 6 stories tonight. 4 of them basically from DC Comics. 3 of those 4, of course, from Batman Beyond. There's another Batman story, I believe, in there as well. I got a story about Tony Schiavone getting a graphic novel. Now, for those of you who may not remember who Tony Schiavone is, he was a longtime WCW wrestling commentator. He within the past year here started back up again. After WCW was sold to the WWE, he had left the wrestling world for a while, but continued his broadcasting career, like doing minor league baseball games in the Atlanta area. And then I got a story from Marvel Adventures, something about Captain America and Scarlet Witch and a potential romance there somewhat. So, anyways, that's 6 people now. Good. So, anyways, let's go ahead. Let's see. Solid needs a song. Yeah, maybe. Sup, dude? Medley Bravo. How about that? He was told to spoil Mick Foley winning AW. Yeah. That's one of the more famous things he was known for. He actually has a podcast now. If you guys ever want to check that out, there's this set of for those of you who are interested in pro wrestling. There's these podcasts that this guy named Conrad Thompson does for MLW Radio. They're on YouTube as well. See, I know Bruce Pritchard, aka Brother Love, has one called Something to Wrestle With. As I said, Tony Schiavone has one. What happened when? The Orange Show with Arn Anderson, Grilling JR with Jim Ross. As I understand, I think Ric Flair and Eric Bischoff also have podcasts. Eric Bischoff said, I think it's called 83 Weeks in reference to the 83 straight weeks that WCW beat WWE in the Monday Night War ratings. What did people think of the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard news about not donating to sick kids? Didn't hear anything about that, or I wasn't paying. I don't pay attention to that story. So, anyways, um, there's a few other things you guys are saying here. Let's see. Dude, SJW just stole an American election. The MSM is 100% proven to be brainwashing and lying. No one gives a flying F about JD. Sorry, it's true. Nothing will happen. I don't, yeah, I kind of have to agree. I don't necessarily give Woo! I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at the lefty system in control now. Yeah, I'm kind of feeling the same way. That's why I don't watch Tug content anymore. Yeah, that's the unfortunate. I know it makes me sad. Hmm. Oh, anyways, let's get on to some happier news, as it were. There's some reminiscing news about times when the world wasn't stupid. So this is the first like four DC comic stories that I'm going to be talking about. Three of them are kind of have links to Batman Beyond television series. Um, so here we go. Um, Star Wars Ray and Batman Beyond's Terry McGinnis basically have the same origin story. So let's take a look at this one here. Batman Beyond doesn't seem like it has a lot in common with Star Wars, but it turns out that Terry's origin is eerily similar to Ray's. Of Ray is. Star Wars and Batman Beyond are two very different properties, but their respective protagonists, Ray and Terry McGinnis, have eerily similar origin stories. Both characters are created from cloned genetic material, with one coming from the world's greatest detective and the other from the most evil being in the galaxy. So let's look at how the origins of Star Wars' newest Skywalker and the futurist version of Batman are practically the same despite some key differences. Star Wars Ray. Ray's father was a strand cast who was bioengineered by the Sith Eternal on Exegol as a way to host the Palpatine's essence. Despite the Sith Eternal's um, numerous experiments with his genetic template, Ray's father lacked a connection to the Force, meaning he could not serve as the Sith Lord's biological vessel. Despite viewing him as a failure, Palpatine allowed Ray's father to have a way to continue his bloodline. Speed man, gotta go off camera for a sec here, guys. Okay, I'm back. Okay, let's see what. No, it makes me sad. It's always been stupid. Just the amount constantly swifts. Whoever Ray is, you rule, Mike. He literally could not care any less about the sequel thing. Well, I mean, I haven't watched Star Wars. I don't even think I saw the originals. Quite honestly, this is something that never appealed to me. More Star Trek than Star Wars. So, Batgoat, apparently, that report was available to Congress on the 6th, and they just said, poof. Well, yeah, we know that the liberals like to ignore evidence. Even if you would have put it right in their face, they just ignore it. So that's part of the problem right there. Swifts. That was supposed to be shifts. All right. Well, anyways, continuing on with this story, then the Strand cast would eventually escape Exegol alongside a newly born Ray and her mother. Oh, so Ray is a girl. Okay. Wow. Um, in 15 ABY, whatever ABY means. Unlike her father, however, Ray inherited Palpatine's strong connection to the Force, which made her a target of the Sith Lord. Eventually, Palpatine sent one of his devoted followers, Ochi, um, after the child, which caused her parents to sell her to Unkar Plut out of fear for her safety. Ochi went on to murder her parents after they refused to reveal her location. But Ray was able to survive as a scavenger on Jakku. Um, Having nearly forgotten the entirety of her past by the time The Force Awakens, her memory would eventually be restored during her Jedi training. She would disavow her Sith lineage and embracing the light side of the Force. Now we get to someone I know a bit more about in this case, Batman Beyond's Terry McGinnis. I got to go off camera for a moment, though. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Pulitzer report. I didn't read, just saw headline tag. I believe it. Ray Ray Ayanami. No, I don't think this is the same Ray. Ray Ayanami was from Neon Genesis Evangelion. Ray, as in Raylos. Those people are not right in the head. Okay, so anyways, as we get ready to move on, as we continue this story a bit here, getting into somebody I know a little bit more about, Batman Beyond's Terry McGinnis. We were all talking the other day, a pretty cool series. Although McGinnis was created as a force for good, his origin is still ethically dubious. As the head of Project Cadmus, Amanda Waller created the Batman Beyond Protocol as a way to continue Batman's legacy after the eventual death of Bruce Wayne. And this is what I alluded to when we were talking about it, as we've been talking about it the last few days. We've been covering some of these stories. Waller harnessed Wayne's DNA from various crime scenes and used nanobots to rewrite Warren McGinnis' reproductive system. During a checkup, Warren and his wife eventually gave birth to Terry, who, unbeknownst to them, was actually Wayne's biological son. Yeah, I remember that episode too. I remember epilogue very vividly, in which when Amanda Waller's comment there was, yeah, we just had to collect some DNA, and considering that he left it all over town, and then you see Terry give her the look like, what? And then she goes, not what I mean, son, not what I mean. I remember that. So that was a pretty. Continuing on, then. Waller had darker plans for the Batman Beyond protocol, which included the assassination of Warren and Mary. She felt that their deaths would inspire Terry to pick up the cowl, but her assassin scrapped the plan. The scheme would be implemented several years later, however. After Warren is killed during Batman Beyond's pilot episode, Terry would eventually discover the truth of his origins in the finale of Justice League Unlimited Season 2, which, of course, was the episode right after, like, Alive and Destroyer, the Justice League supposed final showdown with Darkseid. So, although Ray and McGinnis are entirely different characters, their origin stories have many overlapping similarities. Both characters were supposed to carry the legacy of their genetic sources and faced the death of a parent as a result. But while Terry was bred for good and Ray was created for evil, they paved their own paths and carved their own legacies. Yeah. I also remember from that episode, from that, Justice League episode, some more of Amanda Waller's comments in regards to Terry slash Bruce, or Terry and Bruce there. One of the comments I remember from it was how, because Terry was concerned that, oh, I'm just a carbon copy of him, this, that, next thing. And Waller started talking about the different comparisons. Granted, well, she even cited that Terry was Bruce's son, whereas, yeah, he didn't, Terry didn't necessarily have Bruce's, mental capacity. He wasn't quite as bright as Bruce was, but he still had a big heart and did care for everybody, even if he didn't show it in the ways that maybe most people would think. So, yeah, so anyways, so yeah, so let's see. So with that being said, let's move on to the next story. It looks like some people are dropping off here. It would seem. Um, Back down to 3 people. I know. It'll come. Let me just. So we saw that story. And here's the next one I wanted to. And this one I really wanted to talk about because I did want to talk a little bit about the idea of aging in comics, and cartoons a bit, because that's kind of another interesting little tidbit that I'm often interested in. I don't know. I mean, think about this, guys. When you guys, I know, like, back up, Woody probably read more comics than I think most of us have. I think some of you read comics or mangas. Let me ask you something here. Have you ever thought about like how things? I mean, Greg, you probably haven't, but have you ever watched how the characters had evolved over time and just kind of just been in awe of how they lived their lives, basically? You know, the watching how they age and stuff like that. I'm wondering, okay, well, how old was he when this happened, or how old was she when this happened? That kind of thing does kind of interest me a bit. I don't know if you guys have ever really thought too much about it. I'm still here. Yeah, it seems like people keep coming in and out. It seems like, but anyways, um, Batman Beyond. Here's how old Bruce Wayne was in the series. Timeline of the DCAU is intentionally tricky, but with some sleuthing, it's possible to figure out Bruce Wayne's age in Batman Beyond. And I've got some interesting theories on how to figure out, like, one of the things I like to do a lot of times when I have gone back and read through the synopsis and in comics, when I've done that before, I'd like to try to keep track of. I like to also kind of try to keep track of um, of how they've aged over time. I mean, there's some other sites I've gone to where they actually do have the list of the. I mean, there was this one smart memes um, page a while back that actually had like not just the date of birth, but I mean even the year. Now, granted, a lot of the information was based more on the post-crisis version of the characters, but then I myself even figured out like, so when you go back and you read, like when you read, some of the Superman stories, in Action Comics, and you're trying to figure out, well, how old would he technically be, and I'll explain that too as I'm going through this as well, because I based it on that smart memes data that I had. That site is no longer up. It was taken down years ago, but still it gives you a good kind of focal point to get started from. Um, so Batman Beyond gave a unique opportunity to see what an isolated superhero universe looked like after it progressed for decades, capping off the history of the DC animated universe with 3 seasons of the new Batman's Adventures, with Batman the Adventures series, animated series, starting the universe's continuity, and Batman Beyond capping it off. It's almost baffling that the centerpiece of the entire universe is something of an enigma. Um, a lot of fans have probably never thought about it before, but Bruce Wayne's age in the DCAU is a far greater mystery than one might suspect. Much of the mystery results from the series creator Bruce Timm intentionally obfuscating um, the timeline of the DCAU in order to give it a timeless feel. Tim has gone on record saying that the DCAU observes Peanuts time, much like the kids in Peanuts. Batman is always in his early to mid 30s. Tim and many of the other creators working on the show intentionally avoided providing dates and topic references they could to extend the series shelf life. meaning that figuring out Bruce's age could be all but impossible. Except the DCAU was not quite as stringent about avoiding giving dates and times as Tim may have intended. Though precise dates for everything are impossible to know, putting Batman's famous origin in some murky area in the past, there are various dates that appear in the series, including a magazine dated 1992 and a check from the New Batman Adventures dated 1997 that give a rough timeline. Um, those clues allowed one Tumblr user to create an elaborate timeline of the DCAU that puts all of these minor events together to answer the big question. The timeline puts Batman's career fighting crime starting at the 1980s and early 90s. Since the first two Batman series span 5 years alone, given the 1992 dated magazine and the 1997 dated check, then it's clear, despite Tim's intention for Batman to always be in his early to mid 30s, that the continuity itself goes beyond that. By the time Justice League, a show occurs concurrently, by the time of Justice League, a show occurs concurrently with Static Shock, a reference to Y2K occurring last year, puts the Cape Crusaders' career at spanning at least a decade across the 90s. Batman Beyond picks up around 2020 with Bruce Wayne finally deciding to retire as Batman, only to bring back the mantle in 2040 when Terry McGinnis is ready. This means that if Batman was initially intended to be in his early 30s and at the start of his career, he would have been born around 1960. Um, yes, and I'm after I read this article, I'm gonna actually talk a little bit more about the aging within the DCAU because this is something that I was really interested in because even when I would try to go back and look through all the look through the DCU, I wanted to see how time progressed, and when I would imagine it, I'd want to imagine, okay, how do these people look when there's at certain points in times, and how do you differentiate between like the Earth 1 and Earth 2 and all that. So um, he then fought crime alongside other heroes for 30 more years and retired in his 60s. Would seem to happen a lot. I think in both on Earth 2 with many of the heroes of that Earth that formed the Justice Society, and on Earth, well, I don't know if it happened as much with Earth 1, but definitely with Earth 2, many of those heroes did last well into their 60s. Now, part of that was because of some kind of time effect where somehow they were exposed to chronal energy that actually de-aged them a little bit. So when they were maybe maybe they were chronologically in their 60s, but their bodies were still like in their 40s. So um, he then fought crime alongside other heroes. Okay, we read that. Only to begin training Terry in his 80s. Flash forward even further by 10, 15 years, a timeline gets a little inconsistent around Justice League Unlimited's epilogue. And Bruce is around 100 years old when Terry fully embraces the mantle of the bat and begins tending to the ailing billionaire. The DCAU's Kanan is a cherished touchstone for many fans, and digging into its timeline with such detail makes it feel so much more real, while Tim's concerns about maintaining the series' shelf life are respectable. The ability to attach actual dates and ages adds something special to the universe's heroes. And believe it or not, if you guys do decide to go back and read read older comics, you can actually do that with the older comics too if you can figure out the right formula. I don't read comics anymore, but I understand what you're saying, Mike. My example is Cobra Kai. I was in high school when Karate Kid came out, only a few years younger than Ralph Macchio. So to see it carried on now is really cool. Plus, they are doing it right. Yeah. I'm going to go off camera for just a moment. And then when I come back, I'm going to talk a little bit more about, this story really sparked me wanting to talk about aging within the DC universe. I want to go into that for a few minutes. Share some of my theories and how to do all that. I'll be right back. Hey, Best Boy. Hello, everyone. Hey, Best Boy. Welcome to the stream. All right. So, as I said before I do move on to the next story here, I do want to talk a little, which will be this one right here, the why Batman Beyond ended after season 3. Before we get into that one, though, I do want to go into a little bit about the aging process. In fact, here I'm gonna close this for just a moment. Close the share screen here for just a moment, so I can have now. I started this a couple of times. Where because part of me, as many of you know, I've talked about this before. I grew up watching the Super Friends, so I became very interested, of course, in the DCAU. Um, let's see. Hey there, solid, and then hey, best boy. So, yeah. So as I said, and one day I wanted to, it's like I'm sure that for those of us who have read comics before, I know we get the whole idea of the escapism. Want to, we talk about it a bit, even when Batgoat and I are doing the comic history retrospective. But the idea of wanting to escape the world we're living in because we feel that what we're living in is a piece of crap. And yes, I know I did just swear there, but I'm doing that to kind of make a point. So we want to go somewhere, obviously, that makes us feel happier, as it were, you know. And maybe the thought, for some, maybe the thought of hanging out with like Superman and Batman. Maybe for others, maybe hanging out with like Spider Man and the X Men. For others, still hanging out with Archie and his crew. Going into those, that sense of escapism and going into those other universes, right? It's a cool experience. If you could, if we were to, in DC, there's this character named Axis, who is supposedly the guy who is at this interdimensional gate that could allow you to travel into all the other universes, right? Okay, and we know a little bit about the multiverse. So, as we're reading the stories here, and also it kind of does lead into the part of the idea of um, how the whole multiverse came to be in the DCU. Earth 1, Earth 2, Earth 3, Earth S, Earth A, all that. Um, how did all that come into being, as it were? Part of that was, one of the things I think I've talked a little bit about before is, you know, there was kind of a point in the late 40s, early 50s, as many of the golden age versions of DC heroes, the Flash of what we would know as Earth 2, Jay Garrick, Green Lantern Alan Scott of Earth 2, Al Pratt, the Atom of Earth 2, Carter Hall, they were starting to get away from crime, but Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman remained so popular. They actually went throughout the 50s, but people were starting to notice that sometime in the early to mid 50s how some stories it would seem like, okay, some stories Superman or Batman or Wonder Woman seemed a little older, like you'd have some stories where they seemed like they were older and some stories where they seemed like they were younger. And that's how we ended up getting, all the idea of the multiverse. And that's basically when, with the Martian Manhunter's introduction into in 1955, that's what started the Silver Age. And then, of course, we had Flash, um, issue 123, a Flash of Two Worlds, where we get the first, outright admission of parallel universes. Okay. Um, well, of course, talk about the differences in the specific characters. Well, probably when we get to that in the history, and when we get to that point as we're doing the historical retrospect. Um, let's see. I think Barletto Stream Friends. Hey, solid. Sure smells like it. Indeed. Hey, best. Okay, so anyway, so now when I decided to try to go, because I would go back and try to look through the synopses, and I try to recreate the DCAU in my head, right? That's how I know so much about it, because I go back and as I would like read the synopses and stories, I'd want to keep track. I'd want to figure out, okay, well, how old was Superman when this happened? How old was Batman when this happened? How old was Wonder Woman when this happened? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Sure, maybe at some point, maybe many of us have thought that, just how old are they, and how can these different characters and stuff like that? Well, okay, so I did some extensive research on trying to figure out their ages. Of course, there is one site I use at the DCU calendar, the DC calendar, that has their birthdays, maybe not the exact years, but their birthdays. Okay, and then as one of the former focal points I would use in that was a smart means page that actually had the majority of the DCU characters' date of births and all that, for basically post-crisis time, basically, or for modern comics time. Okay, let's see. For like reference, for example, I'd use these for references. So for so what they would state as, like, for example, Batman's birthday in the post-crisis period. Okay, would have been February the 13th, 1960, 63, 2/13/63. That means that when the DCU was revamped after the crisis in 1988, the post-crisis Batman would have been around 25 at that point. Superman, they said his date of birth was, I think, well, yeah. Now, according to Smart Means, it was December of 64. There have been some other things, like, I know in the comics they stated that they gave Clark Kent the birthday of June 18th. That's kind of, and then there's also, according to the DC calendar, his birthday is February 29th. So basically, depending upon which date you want to use, which specific date. But okay, so looking back, for example, with Superman, right? Um, so so this is the way you figure it if you were to go back and you wanted to keep track of the ages. Um, probably most of the mainstream heroes um, would have been born in the late 50s, early 60s, post crisis. Most of the post crisis DC heroes um, would have been born in the like late 50s, early 60s. As I said, some of them even in the later 60s. As I remember, let's see, Superman was 64, Batman was 63. I think Wonder Woman was 69. So now, how do you make that comparison to Golden and Silver Age? How do when you look back and you look back, like when we do take a look at Action Comics, determine what Superman's age was at the time, and many sources say Superman started his career as Superman when he was around 23. So, um, so like we got your favorite video. We have somebody new coming in. Hello, Creamer. Laugh out loud. We're not necessarily talking about video games right now, but so anyway, so as I said, using Superman as a template. Right? Hi, hi, Creamer. I don't know. I like to watch small YouTube when I'm bored. Well, welcome. We hope your channel looks interesting. Yeah, I talk a lot of niche stuff. Not really games as much, but like more like anime, cartoons, manga, um, pro wrestling. So hopefully you'll stick around and check out what we're talking about here. Anyways, for the comic fans here, try to get what I want. Welcome, Creamer. Bunch of comic book geeks here. Yeah. Yeah. So using Superman as a template and saying like, okay, so we go on the idea whether it's February six or December of '64. I have some other sites I use as well to help me with the nailing down the specific date of birth. But this is what I figured out. So when you're looking back to the Golden Age series, you take the year, the post-crisis birth year, and subtract 50 years from it. So when you're looking back at it with stories from the Golden Age, okay, so Superman, if he was born in post-crisis, he was born December of '64. So let's say that for the Golden Age stories, for the stories, like Action Comics 1 that came out in 1938, um, April 16th of 1938, which would put him about when he would start his career at age 23. Um, he would have been born in 1914. Now, based on now trying to figure out the differences, let's say in ages between the Golden Age characters and Silver Age seems a little more complicated. But one of the things I figured out was the difference. What it comes down to is the difference comes down to about 15 years between the Golden Age. So let's say Superman was born in 1914 in the Golden Age, right during the Golden Age era comics. That would have meant that he would have been born in 1929 in the Silver Age. So next time if you guys have whenever we're reading like particularly DC, I mean I don't know the other comics how it all works out, but um, if that part of it does interest you, in terms of the DC side of it, that's how you'd figure out like how old each of the characters would be. It's like um, and maybe I'll explain that more when we do get more into looking more into the like DCU stuff. But I'm actually a cartoon dork. Uh, Hey, Creamer. It's like, and when you look at the different canons among the different like when you're looking at Earth One and Earth Two, it also according to some of the sources I've read before as well. Like there's one called the JSA Fact File, talks about the Golden Age Batman, the Earth Two Batman dying in 1978 is by that point he'd given up the cow, but Bruce Wayne had become police commissioner and it was shot down by a criminal by the name of Bill Jenkins. Um, so if you go based on that, he would have been something like I think it was 1978 or something like that. But he would have been like maybe 64, 65 around there. Could have been in his early. Yeah, I think it. That's out though. So I just want to give a little explanation of that. Hey, just give me a sec. I got to go off camera again. Sorry, guys. So, anyways, we'll get to the next story here. Next news story. I just want to do a little brief little tidbit on that because that was something that interests me, and maybe as we look further down the line, we get to those points a little later. When we're doing the historical retrospect, we will talk a little bit more about that. So, as we move forward here to this next story, why Batman Beyond ended after season 3. I'm sure it was a pretty good series. I'm sure a lot of fans probably were curious about that. Despite critical acclaim, Batman Beyond ultimately failed to live up to the expectations WB executives had. Okay. In 2001, Batman Beyond was canceled after just 3 seasons. Unfortunately, like many, unfortunately, like many shows before it, um, there was never an official reason given for its end, leaving fans to speculate about what had happened. However, while there likely never will be a firm explanation from the executives at the WB at the time, a member of the show's creative team has provided some insight into what happened behind the scenes. Well, and eventually Batman Beyond did get its kind of closure, as it were, with a couple episodes in Justice League. Justice League Unlimited. There were a couple. Um, so Batman Beyond was an animated show that ran for 3 seasons from January 1999 to December 2001. The premise of the show followed an aging Bruce Wayne that retired from his superhero duties and was looking to find a successor to assume his role as Batman. His journey eventually saw him cross paths with Terry McGinnis, who would go on to pick up the Dark Knight's mantle. Now, you got to remember, too, the DCAU is its own self-contained universe, too. So it's going to be, even though we've had a number of characters actually transition to the main DCU, the DCAU is still its own contained universe. The show was generally well received and critically acclaimed, winning 2 daytime Emmy awards in 2001 for outstanding special class animated program and outstanding music, direction, and composition. So, with all that going for it, many were taken by surprise when the WB gave the show the axe ahead of the 4th season. While the thinking behind the WB's decision was never revealed, there is some reasons to believe that it boiled down to television's measuring stick ratings, television's measuring stick ratings. In July 2019, Bob Goodman, one of Batman Beyond's writers, told Shack News that the show's ratings didn't meet the numbers that the executives had in mind when they pitched the show to advertisers. There was also some concern that the show's darker material, because it was aimed at children, though Goodman that the creative team was given unprecedented freedom when it came to developing storylines. After the cancellation, any hopes of bringing the show back at a later point were squashed when producer Bruce Timm and writers Rich Fogel and Stan Berkowitz started focusing on the new Justice League series that was being developed at Cartoon Network. Now, going from, of course, network television to cable would have gave them, it obviously gives them more liberty to be creative. You know, I think, as I always understood it, the FCC doesn't crack down as hard on cable as it does on network TV. So, free to air TV, basically. Um, the series, that series and its sequel, Justice League Unlimited, would go on to find success and expand the DCAU in a major way. Fortunately, Tim still hasn't given up hope that Batman Beyond could return. During San Diego Comic-Con 2019, he stated, "If the thing," referring to the show's physical release, "sells like crazy on Blu-ray and creates a giant buzz that will make it make it more possible that it would happen, we would totally do it." Yeah. So there you go. So that's it. So basically, it was probably more, from the sounds of it. It sounds like the WB executives were just impatient with it, because it was a pretty good show. It was pretty well liked, and the ratings would have probably eventually climbed. But hey, Mike, solid toys, back up, best boy, new face creamer. I see how Barry. Oh, hey, Leto, good to see you, man. I'm warming up the car to drive to work. I'll be listening though. Okay. How are? Hey, Leto. All right then. So with that, at least the completion of the cartoon side of it. So now we're gonna go over. We're gonna look at the three comic stories here I picked out for tonight. And one, two. That one I'm gonna really forward to reading. Did we go down this far? I think so. Oh, there's the other one that I want to. Okay, so here we go. Still staying in the Batman mythos, but because this is going more towards the well, I don't even know if this is even as much towards the I don't even know if this is much towards the main DC universe as it is towards the Hanna-Barbera DC universe. Because so here's the story. Here's the first story on the comic side of it. DC announces new Batman series co-starring Scooby-Doo. DC is launching a Batman and Scooby-Doo Mysteries digital first series, teaming the Dark Knight up with Scooby and the Mystery Inc. Now, of course, for those of you, for like, now Batgo, Woody, and I probably know this. Maybe some of you guys have seen it years later in syndication, but Batman and Robin actually did make an appear. They actually made, I think, two or three appearances, in fact, on the new Scooby Doo mysteries. In the early '70s, 73, 74, around there. So, yeah, so they've had a bit of a history together prior to this. So, Batman and the Mystery Inc. gang are teaming up in an all-new digital-first series titled Batman and Scooby-Doo Mysteries. Um, Writers Ivan Cohen and Shawley Fish collaborate with artists Dario Bizuela and Randy Elliott for each digital chapter. Beginning Saturday, March 27th, The Dark Knight, Scooby-Doo, and the Sleuths of Mystery Inc., Shaggy, Velma, Daphne, and Fred will start in 24 digital chapters, which will be collected in 12 print issues on April 13th. Let's see. And as I mentioned before, or some of you who didn't know, um, Batman did guest star in Scooby Doo Mystery, the new Scooby Doo Mysteries back in, I think it was like 73. It made like 3 appearances, Batman Robin did. So, hey, Leto, driving now. What's up, Anna? Oh, so Anon came in, huh? Oh, yeah, that was actually from a while ago, I guess. Hey, good evening. Just got home, going to eat something. All right. Hey, Leto. Um, Okie, I'm driving now. Sup, Anon? Hey, Anon. Sup, Anon? NM just woke up, heading to work. Nothing much, or nothing much. Hey, good evening. Hey, Anon. By the way, hey, Anon. Be safe, Leto. Alrighty then. So, anyways, as we continue on with this story here, Batman and Scooby Doo Mysteries #1, written by Ivan Cohen and Shirley Fish, art by Dario Brizuela and Randy Elliott, cover by Dario Brizuela and Franco Risco. In the kickoff story by Ivan Cohen and Dario Brizuela, an adventure when Batman discovers his original purple gloves um, have gone missing. Velma, Shaggy, and Scooby Doo travel back in time to Batman's Year One era to solve the case. Will the time traveling heist have a happy ending? Batman and Scooby Doo Mysteries #1, Club Story, written by Ivan Cohen, with art and cover by Dario Brizuela, begins the first of two DC Digital chapters on March 27th, followed by a print issue collecting the same story on April 13th. And to continue the Scooby Doo team up, um, tradition established in over 100 chapters of Scooby Doo team up. In the second big Batman Scooby Doo mystery story, writer Shawley Fish and artist um, Randy Elliott have Scooby Doo and Batman team up to solve the mystery of a ghost who's haunting the Batcave. Even if the ghost turns out to be a fake, that still doesn't solve the real mystery. How did someone get into the Batcave to stage the phony phantom? And does that mean Batman's enemies have cracked the secret of his true identity? Batman and Robin Mystery Scooby Doo Mysteries #2, Going Bats, written by Shawley Fish and with art and cover by Randy Elliott, rise in print on May 11th after digital chapters beginning on April 24th. Batman Scooby Doo #1 goes on sale digital Tuesday, March 27th from DC. So, yeah, that was an interesting story. And it does harken back to Batman's earlier appearances on the new Scooby-Doo mysteries. Um, Fred and Daphne too busy. Up to 7 people now. Yay, 7 people! And as always, guys, I do appreciate all the likes and shares. You guys can help me out with that. Let's see if we can get more people in here. It looks like we are getting more people in here, so that's cool. Solid asking or mentioning something. In the Venture Brothers, Velma was trying to be with Daphne. Okay. Okay, so with that being said, let's move on to the next story then after this one. It is this one. One of the few times I actually do, aside from the this day and age history stuff, the few times I actually do talk about a wrestling story on here. Tony Schiavone's wrestling career has become a graphic novel. Oh, this one really caught my attention when I was looking through this. So you got him right there with Cody Rhodes, the of course older brother of Dustin Rhodes, aka Goldust, and son of the late American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, right there. WWE, WCW, and AEW announcer commentator Tony Schiavone's career is being turned into a graphic novel by Source Point Press called "Butts in Seats." That was something that he often would say. Or actually, no, that was a quote from I believe it was Solid who mentioned it earlier when Eric told him to spoil the Mankind title win. He of course made the comment, "Yeah, that's gonna put butts in seats." Who the Venture Brothers? Groovy Gang and the grooving on a Sunday afternoon. Anyways, here we go. The career of acclaimed professional wrestling commentator announcer Tony Schiavone is being turned into a graphic novel courtesy of Source Point Press. Curated by Schiavone and written by Dirk Manning, the 10-part graphic novel will feature art by DJ Kaufman, Sally Scott, John Marroquin, Lee Garner, Scott James. Scott. Now, the only reason I paused there is because James is actually the legal name or the real name of the Armstrong family. So I'm wondering if that's Scott Armstrong or not. Um, Josh Ross, Austin McKinley, and Len O'Grady, with each artist illustrating a different stage of Schiavone's career. The book is titled Butts and Seats, in reference to Schiavone's infamous jab at WWE, then WWF, while commentating for WCW. Since Raw was pre-taped in 1998, he spoiled that Mankind was going to win the WWF Championship during a live broadcast of WCW's rival show Nitro, saying, "That's going to put some butts in the seats." Incidentally, it did as a number of viewers switched over from Nitro to Raw to see Mankind capture his first WWF championship. So that little stump backfired on him. Oh, and I guess here is the panels for it. Yes, that's supposed to be Eric Bischoff right there in that first panel. NWO. A lot of you may know Tony Schiavone. A lot of you may know Tony Schiavone as the announcer for professional wrestling promotions such as WCW, WWF, WWE, and most recently All Elite Wrestling. Now, technically, Tony Schiavone was only with the WWF for 1 year. That was from '89 to '90. In fact, from what I understand, I think WrestleMania 6, where Warrior had beaten Hogan for the WWF World Heavyweight title, I think that was Tony's last pay per view with the company. Um, but whether you're a wrestling fan or not, I can guarantee you that you will find this story engaging, amusing, and even inspiring, Manning said. For a project of this magnitude, the only publisher we would consider taking it to was, of course, the mighty Source Point Press. We partnered with them to launch the book on Kickstarter this March, making it possible for those of you who pre-order it in this fashion to unlock and attain all kinds of cool bonuses and agendas, upgrades, many of which won't be available after the campaign ends, he added. Butts and Seats by Dirk Manning, DJ Kaufman, Sally Scott, John Marroquin, Lee Garner, Scott James, Josh Ross, Austin McKinley, Len O'Grady, and Sean Burris launched on Kickstarter in March from Source Point Press. Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's kind of an interesting take, isn't it? A wrestling announcer actually getting his own comic book, getting his, being the star of his own comic book. That sounds pretty interesting. What would you guys say? Let's see. Um, was that one chick that tried to kill Andy Warhol? Um, I'll be right back, guys. I gotta step away from the computer for a moment. I'll be right back. All right. So, anyways, okay. So we did have that. Um. Wow, we're already coming up on an hour and a half here. All right. Lucky thing I got through most of the stories already. I didn't think I just have one more, the main stories, and um, Ted is a play on Ted Bundy. Um, at my wasn't Shivani present when Hall and Nash put Bischoff through? I think he might have been. He might have been. I think by that point they made it like Shivani, Bischoff, and McMichael were the broadcast team at the time. Steve McMichael. Can't remember the others. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think it was at that point. It was like Eric Bischoff, Tony Schiavone, and either Bobby Heenan or actually no, Steve McMichael. I think came a little later. Um, Actually, no, Steve McMichael was. Yeah. So, yeah. Oh, gotcha. Oh, Sunny and Groovy are David Berkowitz and his neighbor's dog. Sound cool? Check it out sometime. It's so worth it. Play on comic and popular culture and all that good stuff. Um, Everyone loves Brock Sampson. I do too. But Shore Leave is the best. Yeah. Night, everyone. All right. Well, good night. ATC, I guess you have to. Night Action Toys. Hey, Anon, sorry I was playing Kingdom Rush and only listening Night Toys. Um, hey, Bat Goat, no worries. Good night, Toys. Night Toys. I think Bischoff was president when all. Oh, yeah, he was yeah. They said he was the president of WCW. He was one of the upper head. Um, WCW, of course, is run by corporation. Brock is another famous Patrick Warburton VA job. He's such an iconic voice. Totally. That was around when I quit watching. Hard to believe it was over 20 years ago. Yeah, I think we're coming up on like 25. We're really coming up on, it's really been more like 25 years when you think about it, when all that started going down with the NWO and stuff. Like 25 years ago. No, crazy. Venture Brothers also had a chick who was meant to be Black Widow. Later, man. Night Toys. Okay, so we're caught up on all the chats there. As I said, we have one more story to go through of the main stories, and then we'll be done for with that part of it. Here we go. This is the other one that kind of caught my attention here. A rare Marvel story that I typed. Captain America and Scarlet Witch almost had the Avengers' strangest romance. Even this caught my attention. Look at that. Look at Cap there and Scarlet Witch locking lips. Um, During Avengers Disassembled, Captain America and Scarlet Witch nearly had an unlikely romance right before the team fell apart. Captain America and Scarlet Witch are longtime friends and teammates on the Avengers. The two heroes have spent many years together, forming a close bond, and they almost developed one of the weirdest superhero romances in the Marvel Universe. In 2004, this surprising relationship emerged in Captain America and the Falcon #6 by Christopher Priest and Joe Bennett. While Captain America and the Falcon were on the run from the US government, they were saved by their fellow Avengers, Hank Pym's Yellow Jacket and the Scarlet Witch. During this encounter, um, there was a surprising flirtation between the Captain and Wanda, as the Scarlet Witch told Steve Rogers that she always admired him. As things began to heat up between the two Avengers, Yellow Jacket interrupted with more pressing matters. Steve later began to experience intense hallucinations. Captain America relived the death of his partner Bucky and being frozen in a block of ice before returning to reality. Once there, the captain admitted to the Scarlet Witch just how exhausted he was. Finally, the two of them shared a kiss. At the beginning of the next issue, Wanda was revealed to have slept on Steve's couch, although Captain America insisted that they didn't sleep together. His relationship with the Scarlet Witch took a more serious turn. Wanda admitted that things were different between them, while before Steve saw an exotic child. That kiss drastically altered the Avengers' dynamic. And there's the kiss right there. Given Wanda's age, Steve was very hesitant about developing a relationship with her. Although Wanda reasoned that she was much older than most women anyways, the Scarlet Witch told Captain America that love wasn't convenient or logical, convincing him to kiss her again. During the same issue, Captain America hallucinated about Bucky's death again, along with his discovery in the ice by the Avengers. This episode ended with Steve fantasizing about Wanda. Very interesting. When talking to the Falcon, the captain confessed that he hoped to have feelings for the Scarlet Witch right before Iron Man's UN address. Captain America went to see Wanda again, telling Wanda that he thought about what she told him before. Steve said that he was willing to give the relationship a chance. Let's see if you guys are saying anything. Hell, Stephen Colbert was Professor Impossible. Creepy cat. Uh, well, I mean, he may have had some other issues going on too. But anyways, but it wasn't exactly like I don't think he was hesitant. He wasn't like trying to go in. Wanda, however, uh, had no idea what Steve was talking about. Furthermore, the Scarlet Witch told Steve that his words were inappropriate, even questioning his sanity. With this, the Scarlet Witch walked away leaving the Sentinel of Liberty extremely confused. Hmm. It wasn't until the events of Avengers Disassembled that the truth behind the encounter was revealed. The Scarlet Witch was undergoing a nervous breakdown, one which affected both her sanity and her magical powers. Whoa, wonder what that meant. I guess, oh, here's the, I guess here is some of the, some portions of the comics on it. Wanda, aren't you going to respond? Respond to what, Captain? Captain? I am not entirely sure I know what you are talking about. Only that it sounds reasonably inappropriate. Whoa. You bet it is. So now we pretend last night never happened. We just last night, Captain. The explosion of magic explained the hallucinations that Captain had earlier, as well as his unusual feelings and unstable emotional state. Captain may have had feelings for Wanda that he never expressed or realized, so Wanda's breakdown might have exploited and amplified these feelings. So basically, she inadvertently hexed him into falling in love with her, and maybe in her own mind, there she was also hexed by her own powers into falling in love with Cap, for at least for the moment. That's a theory I'd throw out there. Wanda's breakdown also explained her mental lapse. For one thing, it was very unlikely that the Scarlet Witch would suddenly develop feelings for Captain America. In all likelihood, she also harbored some undisclosed feelings for Steve that she never acted on. By the end of Avengers Disassembled, the Scarlet Witch and Captain America had narrowly avoided one of the oddest relationships in the history of Earth's mightiest heroes. Yeah, some people. Yeah, I mean, some people might argue that maybe the idea there was that they both maybe had some deep rooted feelings for each other and just chose not to. You know, I mean, again, I don't know, like what are I mean, obviously, it would have even been more, but I doubt very seriously she was, let's say, under the age of 18. If she was a minor, she would not have been a part of the Avengers. So, unless her guardian was as well, but um, so we're at an hour and 40-minute mark here. Yeah. Better not let your wife hear that, Leto. Your wife is liable to give you a nice little whap behind the head there, man. Say that. Wonder what Magneto would think about Cap um, shacking his daughter. I don't know because again, I'm not. I mean, I am. I have like obviously I've done more extensive research on the DCU. Okay, now I did watch Marvel cartoons growing up too, like the Grant Way Lawrence productions of Marvel superheroes and Spider-Man. I did watch some of the Spider-Man cartoons of the 80s and 90s. Okay, as well as some of the Marvel Comics cartoons of the mid 90s. But I haven't done as much and I am aware from the X-Men, the animated series, I am aware that Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch are Magneto's children. So I am aware of that. I'm not aware of all the details. From what I understand, I don't think Magneto had a particularly close bond with his children growing up. So I don't know how all this. I don't know if Magneto would have really been all that affected by it. but you know, no more than anybody else would in regards to just seeing the simple fact, oh, it's you know, an older guy and an older guy and a younger woman, um, basically being involved. So with all that being said, okay, so we're at an hour and 42 minutes. So let's say it's a good time to start winding down. I got through 6 main stories there, and I even talked a little bit about the aging process within the ages in terms of the DCU. So are you guys ready for this day in each history? We'll start winding down a bit. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And of course, don't forget, guys, tomorrow night, of course, I'll have Batgoat on with me, and we'll be taking a look at August of 1936 in terms of comics and stuff like that. So we get that. Yeah, history. Yes. Okay. Um, Batgoat, I'll send you the stream link tomorrow afternoon sometime. So be looking for it. So without any further ado, then let me just remind myself of a few things here. 92, 2001, I believe. Yeah. Anyways, and then yeah. All right. So today being Nietzsche it up, it'll rock. Sounds good. Um. Okay. So without no further ado, today being Thursday, January 14th, 2021. Let's take a look back on this day in Nietzsche history. And our first stop, we're going to go back to 1992. Um, Sorry about that. I screwed up a bit there. All right, so now it shouldn't look like I'm back on. I kind of goofed there, guys. That was on me. Okay, so anyways, imagine you're flipping around a bunch of buttons. Sometimes you hit the wrong button by mistake. So here we go. All right, so hopefully you're all still in here. So first up, we're going to head back to 1992, which was about 29 years ago today. On this date, 29 years ago today, the 360th issue of Amazing Spider-Man hit newsstands. Marvel Comics Amazing Spider-Man number 360 hit newsstands on this date back in 1992. That was 29 years ago today. Um, Cover price was $1.25 with a page count of 32. The story was Death Toy, a 22 pager, written by David Michelin, with Chris Mannion doing the penciling, Keith Williams doing the inking, lettering by Rick L. Parker, and Bob Sharon doing the coloring. So on this date, back in 1992, The Amazing Spider-Man went on sale. Amazing Spider-Man number 360 went on sale on this date back in 1992. So as we continue on, moving ahead, a little bit in time here. On this date in 1996, the Simpsons episode Two Bad Neighbors made its premiere on this date in it was the 13th episode of season 7. The caveat of this episode is this is the episode where Bush 41 made a guest appearance in kind of a homage to Dennis the Menace. But of course, this is also the episode where they had President Bush, Bush 41 spank Bart. So this was again the episode where Bush 41, President George H.W. Bush, the late George H.W. Bush, made an appearance on The Simpsons. Excuse me a moment while I go off camera for a quick sec. So, of course, that happened 25 years ago on this date. Good classic episode. Yep. So, now moving on a little further, 5 years after that. On this date in 2001, 20 years ago today, from the Conseco Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, Indiana, WCW would host its third to last pay-per-view, Sin, on this date. On the card, the main event saw Scott Steiner retain the WCW World Heavyweight Championship in a Four Corners match against Jeff Jarrett, Sid Vicious, and Animal of Legion of Doom fame. Also on the card, totally buffed, the Total Package Lex Luger and Buff Bagwell defeated Goldberg and Dwayne Bruce in a no disqualification tag team match. Now, a little bit of a tidbit. Dwayne Bruce was a longtime WCW employee. By this point, he'd been known more as the trainer at the WCW power plant, WCW's training facilities for their wrestlers. Earlier in his career, back in the late 80s and early 90s, he was primarily known as one half of the enhancement tag team State Patrol with Lieutenant James Earl Wright. Dwayne, of course, would portray Sergeant Buddy Lee Parker. So for those of you who grew up watching WCW Saturday Night or any of WCW's, or even before that, Jim Crockett promotion syndicated programs in the late 80s, early 90s there, you would have seen him a lot alongside Sergeant James Earl Wright. So, you also saw Shane Douglas defeat General Rection, a.k.a. Hugh Morris, a.k.a. Bill DeMott, in a first blood chain match for the WCW United States Heavyweight Championship. The Natural Born Thrillers, Sean O'Hare and Chuck Palumbo, would defeat the Insiders, Kevin Nash and Diamond Dallas Page, for the WCW World Tag Team Championship. Mang would win the Hardcore Championship in a triple threat match, defeating champion Terry Funk and the other member of that match, Crowbar. to open up the night, you saw Chavo Guerrero retain the WCW Cruiserweight Championship over Shane Helms. Many of you would know Shane Helms as Hurricane in the WWE, but he was kind of Shane Helms along with Shannon Moore and the Hardy Boys. These guys kind of grew up in the business together. These guys were all kind of were all like best friends. They all were involved in Matt's Omega Pro promotion. So that's all of that's it for tonight, guys. Let's see. Top 10 Simpsons classic for sure. Love Bush Sr. doing donuts on his lawn with the presidential SUV. Yeah, and then at the end of the episode, of course, you saw whereas Bush Sr. and Homer Simpson were at each other's throats, throughout much of the show. Then after Bush, then you have General Gerald Ford move next door to him, and they're like peas in a pod. So kind of an interesting dichotomy there when you look at it. Yeah. Cool, good show. Thanks, guys. Ha ha ha. Later, everyone. Yep. Have a good one, everyone. Jerry Ford. All right, guys. Well, we're going to wrap it up here. I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow night for when we do the comic retrospective. Back out, I'll send you the StreamYard link, and hopefully you can come on a little early where we can like prep and stuff like that and just kind of get settled in. Until tomorrow, guys. Bye.